Hi, I'm Rick at Rick Turns, and today's video is well, my last turning didn't go so well. This is the piece. Tenon broke off right here. Didn't think this wood was that weak really, but it did break off. So I am going to put this back on the lathe. And instead of a tenon, I'm going to turn a recess in here, and I'm going to mount it with, going to mount it with 50 millimeter jaws expanded into the recess. We'll see how that works. This is where I started hollowing it last time. And I just marked the center point on there. That down and get it right on center, hopefully. That's going to be pretty close to on center anyway. And I'm going to start off with a little bowl gouge just to get rid of some of this wood before I start on cutting the recess. And here is my chuck. And let us find the radius. It should be about 25 millimeters. Okay, now I just need to mark it. Get the center point right on center. And cut in with the outer point. Here we go. This is a record SC4 chuck with 50 millimeter jaws. So, since I've still got to dry this, I'm not going to retrue the outside, but I am going to try and do some more hollowing. Oh boy, and I can't really hold this with a tailstock, not while I'm hollowing. Stand out of the firing range here. All right, 900 RPM there. 5/8 inch bowl gouge. Let's see. I can try this one now. About 1.5 inches, I think. Not too bad. I do have a recess there. I just need to go a little bit deeper. I'm just about done hollowing this out. I've got the sidewalls down to about a ½ inch, I think. I'm trying to get a good shot of the inside. Shot over to the side here. My favorite sidewall thickness checker, which is right here. This is the Tompkins T gauge. Unfortunately, it won't go through there, so I couldn't use it. So then the next thing to go back to is the standard, what I think of as the, can't think of his name now, never mind. Just a piece of, it's about a 3/16 inch heavy duty wire or bar or whatever, and bend it like this, and so this is a gap right here. Take this in here. Well, I got about 1/4 inch, ½ inch right there. I can run this around, always keeping this up against the inside. And when this touches it, without forcing it, you mean you got that much. So pretty good right there. And then right here, we're at the curve to the bottom. So I think considering how prone I am to cutting through the sidewall, I'm going to stop there. Now, I've used a number of tools to get down to that far. Initially, you could probably see I was using a couple of scrapers, an 1.5 inch scraper. Then after that, for some really rough hollowing, I used this tool with that short, it's about a 1/4 inch square bit and a boring bar in there like that. And that got me a little ways farther along, but that's, as I said, really coarse. Really chews up the inside. Then I also have been using this right here. Now this is my homemade hollowing tool. It's got the carbide bit there. It's a lipped carbide bit held in right here, and it's held at an angle down like this. I'll put a link to this, making this, in the video notes, and I did most of the hollowing out after that with this tool. And finally, the last tool I used for more of a fine cut here is this. This is a Robert Sorby tool, and it's got this, I think that's a high-speed steel bit on it, not carbide. But it's also got a flat bottom, so it holds itself on the tool rest fairly well, and that works real good. And because it's kind of wide here, it doesn't take too big a bite. And I was able to smooth out the interior fairly well there. That, I think, is all I'm going to do for the inside, to avoid the risk of cutting through the side wall and having another. Masks aren't just for social distancing. And I'm going to start with my 5/8 inch bowl gouge. Here we go. I've got a fairly thick recess on the bottom, so I am going to turn it a little bit deeper, or a little bit shorter. Get some really fine shavings there. Okay, I think I'm ready for going a little bit finer. I've got a wide scraper right here. It's about 1.5 inches wide, I think. I'm just going to be taking lighter cuts now. Held at a 45-degree angle. All right. a look. Much better, but the wood's still a little torn around here. I have to remove a lot of wood to actually get rid of some of that tearing. Okay, I'm going to switch to my dedicated shear scraping tool, carbide tip blade that I just sharpened. All right, I've got my sander here. I'm going to start fairly coarse. This is 120 grit, just because of this area here and this area here. See if I can get some of that roughness away. And then I'll proceed on to sand up through about 600 grit at least, maybe higher than that. Dust collector. Air filter. About 500 RPM. Send it down to, what the heck, 320 or 400 grit, I can't remember now. And now I'm going to use Axe abrasive paste here. I think they say you only need to sand down to like 220 or 240 grit, and then start using this. And kind of get a bunch of Axe paste on here, and I'm just going to rub it on. First coat, just going to rub it on like this, make sure I get it all over, instead of putting it on with the lathe running. Okay, nicely all over. You can fill the grit on there, of course. I'm at about 400 here. I'm going to turn it up maybe a little faster. Maybe let's go to 600. About 650. Alrighty. Put the cap on the sanding paste. Now I'm going to be using polish and restoring paste. This is very fine. You can tell it even looks finer. Let me get another piece of paper towel here. And I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm probably going to do 2 coats. And man, that's looking good. All right, fresh surface, polish it off. Let's see, I've rubbed this bowl down and blown the dust out of the inside, so I'm ready to put some finish on. It's going to put on an oil finish, and I'm still going to do that on the inside right there. I'm going to dump some of this walnut oil in there. Now for the outside though, I decided to go with friction polish. Never actually used friction polish on an item this big. I usually use it for small things like weed pots and tea light candle holders and things like this. But I'm going to go ahead and put it on right here and see how it turns out. So let us proceed. Being inside like that, it's going to be hard to really to get it all spread all the way around. All right. Okay, now for the friction part. It's about 650 RPM, and I'm going to leave it right there. And I can see right there it's getting a nice shine on it. And lastly, I got a clean cloth here I'm going to buff it with. All right, this is almost finished. I need to take it off, clean up the bottom here, and it'll be done. Well, this hollow form actually turned out pretty good. In spite of me trying to destroy it. You'll see a link to that video down in the show notes. Overall, it turned out pretty good. I think I mentioned earlier I had to change that broken off tenon into a recess for the same size chuck. And that worked out pretty good. That worked out pretty well. So that's about it for this video, and I will see you next week.